私が恋人になれるわけないじゃん。無理無理じゃなかった？
Now that the makeup arc has concluded, things are seemingly back on track. The first thing on Renako's to-do list is approaching Satsuki, letting her know everything's swell, including Mai's chastity. The non-responsiveness from Satsuki has Renako a little confused, but Renako is still sure Satsuki is super in love with Mai, like a good tsundere. Meanwhile, Kaho is still misunderstanding her relationship with Mai, and Ajisai is yet to have her house visited by her. Oh, and Satsuki is totally giving Mai the cold shoulder. But besides all that, Renako is just relieved, feeling she didn't just protect this life out of purely selfish reasons. Her high school debut worked out in the end, and things are looking bright. All that continued as our story reached the end of June. That's right, June, when the match between lover and friend is finally at an end. Now Renako is face to face with Mai's more than glamorous abode. The reality before her makes her rethink if this all wasn't just a prank by the resident rich girl. Nevertheless, Mai shows her to the parlor. Yeah, Renako is not about to be used to this just yet. Why is that pot sparkling? Renako remarks that Mai could swallow her with all this pressure, to which Mai says she'd happily oblige like the psychopath she is. Now that they've reached the parlor, Mai holds Renako by the hand as she reassures her of this awkward situation. Thankfully, the skinship is enough to get Renako's mind off of the situation. Instead, she's more curious if there are really no other people in the house. Mai reassures her of that too, saying how even her mother is away. If Renako wanted, they could even spend the night together. As expected, she just wants to leave after their talk though, much to Mai's dismay, but that just means she can't waste any time right now, so she goes in for a peck. Renako gets a bit mad and reminds her that they still have much to talk about, and so the two get on with their business. Mai recounts the time they've spent together as lovers and as friends, both being equal, of course. Just kidding, as Renako points out, it was very lover-sided, but if Mai isn't hearing it, then it just isn't so. In any case, it all comes down to this very moment. What is Renako's answer? With sweat going down her face, Renako can't answer immediately, especially since she's faced with a glowing Mai. It's kind of hard to say anything in this situation. Nonetheless, she soldiers on and tries to get to the point.
As I thought, I still can't with us being lovers.
Roll the credits and put up the white flag. The story is over. Mai is stricken with horror as she can't believe what she's just heard. Renako attempts to explain herself, but Mai is quick to mention how she even stopped her from finding a new lover. But that case was different. Yeah, totally different. And Renako would have totally cheered her on otherwise. So the two are sharing an awkward air once again. Mai brings up how Renako even tempted her with her loving expressions before, to which she only responds with expert words of gaslighting. But what can Renako do? They barely spent time as friends, and Mai keeps saying they can just do the same things as lovers. She just can't deal with it. And the reason is, well, it's complicated. Renako knows that if they do become lovers, she'd be trying her best every time to keep up a facade. Also, she'd be way too clingy and cry a lot like the loser girl she is. In the end, she just feels she isn't ready for it. Renako resolves herself and tells Mai plainly that she wants to be friends. Expectedly, Mai is bummed out by this development. However, Renako does like Mai, and as a friend, she's inclined to let her do what makes her happy. But what does that mean? Well, it calls for a different relationship, something in between friends and lovers. Renako calls it Rema Friends. Yeah, that name doesn't make any sense to me either. Either way, she's curious to know how Mai will take this suggestion. Will she be disappointed? Will she be happy? Well, how about low-key annoyed? It's to be expected with this much compromise, but even Renako can't help but agree. The problem simply lies in the fact that she lacks the qualities right now to be in a real relationship, but still believes that someday the time will come. Mai is understandably unsure about this, considering she never thought a third relationship option was even possible. Renako sort of remembers Mai bringing up another option though, but that's just because Renako wanted to be strangers. Well, Mai seems pretty troubled by all this. In response, Renako was just getting ready to call things off when Mai decided to speak up. It's true that things have taken an unexpected turn, but in the end, she failed to convince Renako of the joy of being lovers. It was inevitable, just like the hug they're sharing now. Renako's difficulty is really turning Mai on. Speaking of, this behavior is unbecoming for Rema friends, so Renako separates. To this, Mai mentions how, in reality, they're just sex friends right now, but Renako understandably dismisses that lust-filled notion. To test things out, Mai goes in for a kiss, which Renako quickly evades. So instead, Mai attacks her ears, which appear to be Renako's weak spot. Mid-attack, Mai thinks of a way to resolve their predicament, suggesting they just start a new match. Renako can insist on staying as Rema friends, while Mai works on the lover's front. It's the only answer, seeing Seeing as Mai can't give up so easily, I mean, she's staring so hungrily at Renako's ear after all, but with the start of a new match, they should also make a new deadline, that being graduation day. Looks like the manga's future is assured for now, at least. Renako accepts the challenge and declares she'll always be at the side of friendship. After her yapping, Mai takes her in her arms, carrying her like a princess, but as it turns out, Mai is kind of like a Bowser as she kidnaps her to a bed. Not that he'd go this far. What follows is what one could only expect from Mai Ozuka. Renako finds herself on her back atop a very romantic canopy bed. Turns out this is Mai's room, and now it's their time to improve their lover relations. Renako is taken aback by the aggressive attack, but while Mai did say the match was until graduation, she didn't say anything about not wanting to end it this very day. Going in for the kill, she kisses Renako deeply. At the same time, Mai suddenly gets curious and asks what exactly being Rema friends entails. Renako says it includes kissing between friends of course, fitting words as Mai undresses her while she says all that. Also, to her, that just solidifies lovers being the superior relationship. There's just more to it. Suddenly, Renako starts getting PTSD of what had happened before, being swept away by lust. She loudly declares how she isn't an easy woman as Mai dives in for the neck. But she doesn't succumb, saying even louder that today is an interval day, lustful acts are simply not permitted. Turning over a new leaf, Mai actually lets off quite easily, separating from Renako's half-naked form. Renako can't believe it. Mai says if she ever does want to do it, she can simply ask. Mai starts to speak words of temptation, describing the endless happiness and pleasures they would share if they were to become lovers. No one to disturb them, no clothes to separate them. Is Mai really the only one who could give such extreme happiness? If Renako does believe that, then there must be something off with her own head. This situation just proves that best friends is the better option after all, and so their match has ended and a new one has begun. Here's to more moments between these two lovebirds.
私が恋人になれるわけないじゃん。無理無理。無理じゃなかった。
Sometime after the makeup with Mai plan reached its conclusion, Renako finds herself in a dangerously posh party filled with all sorts of danger. Just as Renako was having regrets, a predatory voice called out from behind. It's a woman and she's asking for an introduction no less. Thankfully though, Renako isn't alone. Voila! Clad in an all-red dress, here is Mai introducing her as her fiancé. By the way, Renako is looking pretty sharp herself with that black dress. What a great chapter to come. Having had enough of the high-pressure situation, Renako drags Mai to the side. She asks why in the world they're at such a high-level party when she just wanted a normal dinner. But Mai seems ignorant of how things turned out this way as well, even looking pretty glum at the idea of doing wrong by her lover. All of a sudden, Renako starts overhearing the now raging gossip about Mai's supposed fiancé. They're already imagining the likes of Hemsworth and Pitt. Little do they know it's just Renako, and she makes sure to tell Mai about how valid their assumptions are. But to this, Mai once again tells her she's simply her destined partner, and as we should be used to by now, she dives right in to devour her destined partner. And yes, devour is a very appropriate word to use here. Taking a look at the damage she's done, Mai can't help but bask in the cuteness of the state of her lover. Renako, meanwhile, is unable to handle this, calling it impossible to be lovers. Somehow, the party is now over, and Mai escorts Renako home and says her farewell. Now back home, Renako is greeted by a towel-clad little sister who questions her high fashion. She tells her about how Mai invited her to a party, which makes her sister's eyes glow. Continuing her gloating, she also mentions the exquisite buffet, which she unfortunately didn't get to eat. Supercharged by the moment, Renako happily asks for dinner. As it turns out, no high-class food can do better than a homemade meal. The next day at school, Renako was summoned to the rooftop by none other than Satsuki, who randomly mentioned how hot it was. Considering what happened previously, Renako is pretty wary as to why Satsuki would call for her now. She even came to school early to return Mai's dress to her locker when Satsuki somehow approached her. Finally, Renako gains courage and straight up asks why she was called. She asks if it has anything to do with Mai, to which Satsuki's face visibly twitches. It's cool though, cause Renako is right on the money. The thing is, Satsuki and Mai are currently engaging in a war of cold shoulders. Because of Mai's disastrous visit to Satsuki before, she's been distancing herself from the group, which has led to this awkward atmosphere around the class recently. Putting it all together, Renako deduces with her bright mind that perhaps Satsuki is asking for help to make amends with her. Hearing this ridiculous notion, darkness itself materializes with Satsuki's glare. Who did Renako say should be apologizing? Sweating bullets from the dark aura, Renako quickly twists her own words to mean Mai should be apologizing to Satsuki. She seems to agree with this, thinking how ridiculous it is that Mai hasn't done so already. And so, the real reason for Renako's summoning is revealed. Satsuki wishes to enact revenge. It's just not in her nature to be played around like this. Seeing the writing on the wall for an absolute disaster, Renako awkwardly tries to excuse herself, wanting no part of this arc. But then bang, Kabedon, Satsuki suddenly changes her tune on taking revenge. Instead, she out of nowhere professes her love to Renako, asking her to go out with her. Stunned and speechless, Renako could do nothing but go with this disastrous flow. The truth is, Satsuki is still dead set on revenge, but to leave a mortal wound on the divine Mai, Renako is the only sensible weapon. Nevertheless, this sticky situation has Renako chewed up. Coincidentally, the one to greet her from her rooftop battle is Ajisai, who herself is curious why she and Satsuki were together, but living up to her angelic reputation, she doesn't press too hard, instead respecting Renako as a human being and even changing the subject to one less serious. Kaho also makes a timely entrance into the scene to introduce us to the plan for an outing between the friend group. Of course, they're also worried about Satsuki and Mai making up, especially since they're out of the loop in terms of the finer, Renako-shaped details of the situation. Despite this, Kaho's energetic resolve doesn't waver. In Renako's view, things aren't so promising though. Satsuki showed no signs of willingness to patch things up, and Renako herself is just about done with all the socialization that's been done for the day. Thankfully, she's not alone, so to hopefully help this situation, she expresses her cooperation to Kaho in reviving the relationship between Mai and Satsuki. Speaking of, Mai returns to the classroom, announcing it's time to head home. Ajisai also speaks up to suggest stopping by somewhere on the way home. The plan is a tiring one for the spent Renako, but she reluctantly agrees. Thinking about how done she is, Mai is able to read in her lover's face that she needs assistance. With the power of Mai, she quickly devises a way to let Renako off the hook of spending time with the gals. Renako feels a bit ashamed receiving such nice help, but can't help but feel glad. But this relief is short-lived as Satsuki suddenly enters the picture, wrapping her vengeful arms around Renako's, stating that the two of them have plans. In front of the other half of the friend group, Satsuki slowly takes ownership of her, making sure Mai can hear every single word. The situation also acts as blackmail for Renako, who doesn't want the situation to worsen any more than it has. Unluckily, Kaho helps the situation along and leaves Renako in Satsuki's care while she pulls away both Ajisai and Mai, completely misreading what's going on. Satsuki's presence isn't here to mend relationships, it's here to destroy them with a vengeance. Mai can kind of see what's going on. She slowly starts to try and turn things around. But with Renako not wanting things to complicate further, she decides to play along and go with Satsuki. But not before Ajisai notices the two of them being uncharacteristically intimate. Renako can't really say anything about it since it's all part of Satsuki's revenge plan. The duo finally makes it out, now in front of a vending machine where Satsuki is graciously buying Renako a treat. Settling down at some table, Satsuki starts to talk about how she sure got Mai good with that whole performance. Mai's pained expression triggered something in her sadistic soul. Seeing how satisfied Satsuki is with her villainy, Renako attempts to use it to conclude her revenge plans early. Unfortunately, Satsuki is far from satisfied, but this event has proven Renako's usefulness as a weapon against Mai. Whatever the case, them being together is no doubt the most effective path. Renako can't believe how far she's going, and Satsuki recounts how there shouldn't be any problems given her earnest confession, which, by the way, was as stiff and emotionless as can be. It can't have been the truth, right? The two lock eyes for a moment, with Renako's impure gaze breaking away first. Satsuki mentions how Renako herself has gotten through many hardships because of Mai. She shouldn't mind doing this much. But alas, Renako can't help but feel guilty about going as far as to fake date. She knows this will leave wounds on Mai's heart, and that just isn't right considering their friendship. Turning things around, Satsuki asks if she considers her a friend. Renako doesn't answer immediately, bluntly stating she doesn't know the answer. After all, Satsuki herself had denied their friendship before, and it shocked her. Add on to that, if she happily declares their friendship now, Satsuki is sure to be disgusted. And at the end, all this is just part of her ploy for revenge, and Renako simply dislikes it. Seeing how shaken Renako is from this conversation, Satsuki gives in much to Renako's surprise. She admits that she herself understands that underhanded moves like this won't work, and she never wanted to force Renako into something without her consent. She apologizes for her selfishness to Renako's stunned form, also admitting they aren't really friends, just two people who are in the same group. Nothing more, nothing less. Cutting through the seriousness, Renako asks straight up if this means she's agreed to make up with Mai. Naturally, Satsuki can't believe that's what Renako concluded from all that. She proceeds to look grossed out by the pure buffoon who's in front of her. Not backing down though, Renako admits this sour situation makes it hard for her to even come to school. She then continues on while tearing up, saying how bothersome it would be to her parents if things continued like this. Satsuki can't believe how emotional she's being, assuming this is some sort of threat to force her to make a move. But in the end, Satsuki backs off, agreeing to make up with Mai. As always, she's the one who'll bend over backwards to the troublesome woman, now for the sake of the girl who's breaking down in front of her. Not about to lose out in this deal, Satsuki gathers her remaining villain aura to add a caveat.
2 weeks.
For 2 weeks, she and Renako shall date. Only after that is done will she apologize to Mai. Using her brain, Renako calculates that this would mean things will get fixed up right before summer break. With newfound resolve, Satsuki asks properly this time. To the one hope she has to get back at Mai, she bows her head. Renako recalls how Satsuki practically saved Mai during that whole debacle with the romance activity party. Because of that, it's only fair to respect a favor coming from the very same girl.
I think I can manage this much.
Renako manages to squeak out, despite how difficult this challenge may be. Satsuki finally makes an earnest smile, thanking Renako for this favor, and so, starting tomorrow, the two shall begin dating for 2 weeks. Things are looking mighty interesting.
私が恋人になれるわけないじゃん。無理無理。無理じゃなかった。
Sometime after, Renako finds herself brought to a nice shrine by Satsuki. Apparently, it's a place of special memories for the black-haired villain. Whenever she's looking for motivation, she often comes here to find it. This makes Renako wonder how wonderful the memory would be. Of course, it's more horrifying than wonderful, as this is where Mai clung to her as a last resort after somehow being rejected during elementary school. Sadistic as ever, but why was Renako brought here? Well, because of that rich history, it's a fitting place as any to pledge their oaths to one another on defeating Mai. Renako can't help but retort since they're actually supposed to make up, but Satsuki couldn't care less as she moves on. Despite it only being for 2 weeks, she earnestly tells Renako her flaws as her soon-to-be dating partner. Satsuki may not fit Renako's preference, but she proclaims to try her best to make things right for her. This sudden proclamation has her a bit confused. What does Satsuki mean by her preference? Turns out she assumed her preference was blonde with blue eyes and a quarter of mixed blood, the Mai formula. Of course, Renako finds this ridiculous and denies, but then Satsuki mentions Ajisai and all of a sudden redness envelops her. Renako tries to deflect by denying her sexuality, but whatever the case, Satsuki is dead set on trying her best since Renako is willing to do this much for her. Renako clarifies that it's not like Satsuki likes her for real anyway, to which she bluntly agrees. Indeed, feelings have nothing to do with this unless it's the feeling of wanting to beat Mai. Since they're going for a real relationship, it's only natural to give a real effort. To Renako, this seems like a legitimate marriage interview, to which Satsuki retorts it basically is. So, once again, speaking earnestly proclaims that, while it'll only be short, she'll try her best to be Renako's spouse. The proposal-like phrasing has Renako in shambles. Satsuki, too, got a bit red, questioning why Renako got so flustered. But it's only natural, given that Satsuki of all people said something so lovingly serious. She once again assures Renako that she'll do her best to treat Renako well, to which she asks what she means by that.
You can expect great things.
Upon hearing this, Renako's mind starts entering the lewd zone. Of course, Satsuki catches her turning red like a race car. She ponders for a bit. She steels herself not to criticize her sexuality. Instead, if Renako really demands it, she'd just try her best. Before she could finish, though, Renako exploded, denying everything that just went through her head, even getting her newborn past self involved. Despite it being a blatant lie, Satsuki accepts, not wanting to do lewd things anyway, but then she remembers that she must have done stuff with Mai and gets competitive, much to Renako's panic. Renako says it was all Mai's initiative, to which Satsuki gets a bit suspicious since it could be that Renako doesn't find her attractive. She agrees though, calling Satsuki tremendously beautiful. Funny enough, this gets the tsundere red on the cheeks. With the comedy show done, they finally give each other proper well wishes. But what's this, a handshake? No, it was me. Hand-holding. Already, Satsuki is showing her earnest effort towards their agreement, making both her and Renako blush. In a classic tsundere moment, she utters,
This isn't a problem, right? Doing this much is a basic thing for lovers.
Renako can't help but think how cute Satsuki is, but just as she was trying to untangle their lewd hands, Satsuki got the idea to take Instapics of this moment. It's a perfect way to take a shot at Mai. From tsundere to sadist, Renako reminds her that it won't just be Mai, but everyone in their group who would see their lewd act. Not wanting that to happen, Renako even threatens divorce. But now that the agreement was solid, it didn't mean that they'd be inseparable even at school. All this meant was that after school, they'd spend all their time with each other as lovers. And at a moment just like that, Satsuki inquires about Renako's hobbies. Considering her degenerate gamer life, Renako was shocked by this question. Of course, she doesn't really want to answer. But then she imagined the off chance that Satsuki is secretly a gaming pro. With that hope in mind, she decides to approach the topic slowly. Hearing the mention of games, Satsuki references the game of life, not at all what Renako had in mind. Realizing Satsuki's ignorance of the art, she decides to half-heartedly play along, but Satsuki is no dull girl. She easily sees through the lies. Despite her honest attempt to get to know her lover, it's odd that Renako would just lie and deflect. She wants honesty. And so, Renako gives tears. Yeah, Satsuki isn't used to her low health bar yet. Renako spills the beans about her gaming hobby. Surprisingly, Satsuki knows the term FPS, prompting Renako to burst in excitement, which she took as an insult. Considering how straight and uptight Satsuki seems though, you can't fault Renako for being that surprised. Normally, you'd assume someone like her would think badly of games, but Satsuki believes such generalizations aren't very 2020s. Also, her mom apparently plays games. The mention of mom gets Renako's head racing about some sharp glasses mom, who only says the word study. Somehow, Satsuki reads her like an open book, guessing exactly the image she just generated in her mind. Nevertheless, Satsuki agrees that she hears a lot of assumptions like that about her mom, even though she is very different. But not like it matters since Renako will never meet her. Nice flag planting there. Continuing on the discussion, Satsuki asks about her thoughts on FPS. Renako says it's fun, but Satsuki kinda wanted more out of her real personal thoughts. Awkwardly, Renako admits she likes them. In the comfort of her games, Renako is able to forget about everything else going on in her life. To that, Satsuki can relate. Whenever she reads books, time seems to pass by quickly, even getting her to forget about food or sleep. Renako gets curious about this, asking further about her book-reading hobby. Satsuki doesn't really have any specifics to tell, just enjoys reading books in general, no matter the genre, but she does tend to like books that center around people. About human emotions and how people act, showing their true nature. In particular, she likes it when things like that are written frankly. Renako agrees with the frank part, but Satsuki seemingly isn't sold. After a bit of panic from Renako, she reveals it was just a joke, a natural bully character. Renako's constant panic has her thinking why she's like that though. And Renako reveals it's because she's scared that Satsuki will come to hate her. All of a sudden, Satsuki says that it can't possibly be the case.
I never liked you that much from the start anyway.
The frank truth is revealed, but I guess that's not the frankness Renako enjoys. As they continue their walk, Satsuki decides to offer up a novel she just finished. Hearing this, Renako gleefully takes up the opportunity to do some reading. Satsuki is surprised by how quickly she showed her interest, but Renako isn't about to pass up on seeing what type of books Satsuki reads. And so, she hands it over, also mentioning that the story is probably to Renako's liking, but if it turns out boring, there's no need to finish it. Satsuki is visibly shaken, feeling a bit awkward since it's not the norm for her to recommend any books. The glorious dare moment fascinates Renako. Just as quickly as she shows vulnerability, Satsuki goes on to rip a hole in Renako's self-esteem, thanking her for being such a great example of how not to date someone. Now that they've parted ways, Renako is sitting on the train, worried if she'll like the book she just received. As it turns out though, the reason Satsuki mentioned it's possibly to her liking is because of the explicit girl-on-girl action. Again, Renako receives emotional damage, leading her to curse Satsuki's name even as she's already made it to school the next day. But speaking of girl action, A wild Mai appears, calling her over or some chit-chat. Unfortunately, the rooftop is a no-go since Mai's beautiful skin can't possibly be exposed to the horrid climate of the outdoors. They go over some options with Renako, making some suggestions, but Mai simply leads her to her own genius idea, an idea that gets Renako's eyes wide and surprised. A glistening limousine, a place no one would dare enter. It's perfect for talking about anything and everything. Renako is a bit overwhelmed, but Mai quickly moves on. After all, her lover has been pretty chummy with a certain dark-haired tsundere lately.
私が恋人になれるわけないじゃん。無理無理。無理じゃなかった。
Face to face with Mai Odzuka, Renako is in for a hard-boiled interrogation. Understandably, this is a stressful situation for her, but she manages to blurt out that she simply wanted to deepen her friendship with Satsuki. But seeing as Mai isn't close to being convinced, she quickly resorts to apologizing. This sudden apology has Mai going even harder. What is there for Renako to apologize for? Taking a different approach, Renako clarifies if she and Mai are currently in friend mode, to which Mai says yes. Using that opportunity, Renako starts sharing about her situation with Satsuki in an indirect third-person way. As expected though, Mai sees right through it, smiling at the fact that her interrogation turned into a consultation. Satsuki is plotting against her using Renako, and Renako is guilty about it. Mai has the situation down to a T, living up to her reputation. Renako is impressed by the intelligence of her friend, but is just as quickly turned off by her pride. Whatever the case, the problem lies in Renako overthinking things regarding her friends. It's a difficult situation, but it's exactly why Mai fell in love with her in the first place. And even if she is preoccupied with other girls, there's no worry on Mai's side as she's sure Renako will come back to her sooner or later. True queen mentality. Mai then reveals that she's actually glad about their newfound relationship. It may not look like it, but Satsuki is quite a caring person. And just as Renako suspected, Mai thinks of Satsuki pretty fondly. Curious to know more about their relationship, Renako asks about their relationship before high school. As it turns out, they've known each other since 5th grade. Somehow, the idea has Renako's mind boggled since it's easy to forget the two queens were actually born young. On the topic, Mai confesses she's actually glad to have met Renako only recently. She was apparently pretty stupid back in the day. That idea also had Renako's mind boggled. Mai shares that she used to think everyone would love her by default, as she lived unaware of the great fortune she carried. Yeah, exactly as she is now, pretty much. The point is, though, Satsuki is one of the few who knew how Mai was back then, making it embarrassing sometimes for Mai to face her. Going back to the belief that her meeting with Renako is fated, Mai is certain that she and Renako will be meeting many more times, and that very belief extends to Satsuki, with their time together being irreplaceable. All this sweet talk has Renako imagining that Mai and Satsuki's relationship is a truly special thing, but to Mai, right now it's simply uncertain given how they're not even talking to each other. With that, Renako asks Mai why she isn't making up with her, to which Mai responds with surprising resolve. In the first place, Mai has no problem with Satsuki. All the energy is from Satsuki's way, and Mai is content to let her do what she wants. Renako finds that hard to believe considering the nature of their relationship, but Mai seemingly doesn't mind losing time with Renako. She knows Renako wants to help, and so with that, Mai gives her well wishes. Still unsure of what she's hearing, Renako reconfirms Mai's words. And yeah, Mai doesn't really mind whatever happens. After all, experiences like these are good, and they can't marry before 18 anyway. So, Renako can only take what's given and move on, even though she's not too sure Mai understands what's really going on. Moving on though, Mai expresses some disappointment in herself for not being in lover's mode for this private chat. But on Renako's side, she's glad to have received solid advice from a friend. Back with their usual banter, Mai is swearing by the superior sweetness of being lovers, and Renako is feigning dislike for the sweetness it brings, staying loyal to the idea of friendship. After school, Satsuki comes over to Renako to claim ownership of her time, causing Renako to peek over her shoulder towards a certain Mai. She proceeds to say goodbye to Mai, who is seemingly unaffected. Meanwhile, Satsuki presses even further, getting all up on Renako's personal space. Renako can only be fearful of the chaos that's brewing. The sad life of being a political pawn is upon her. Later, she asks Satsuki if that was a bit much.
Didn't I tell you yesterday that I would treat you nicely?
Coming in for more lewd hand-holding, she invites Renako to join her in a great and wonderful place. As expected, the phrasing has Renako's mind in a wreck. But, as it turns out, that great and wonderful place she meant was the library. Renako's lewd mind causes her to freak out, shouting loudly enough to force Satsuki to rein her in. Also, Satsuki reveals that she intends to treat her nicely by tutoring her. Renako's sad state also has her worried. Outright crying rather than crying out of sadness, it's more about rebellion to her impure thoughts. Nevertheless, Satsuki reinforces that they have to do their best with finals week coming up. With this in mind, she inquires about Renako's studying habits. Her horrid study time has Satsuki acting like Renako's a bug. She has zero interest in students with bad grades. If the two of them are to date, she'd need to be in the top 10 at least. Sadly, Renako's retort puts even her math skills into question. In contrast, everyone in their gang of friends is top 10 material, a fact that Renako is actually shocked to learn, as she thought Kaho was one of her kin. Seeing the inferiority start to heighten in Renako's head, Satsuki suggests that she study hard to potentially change her whole character up. The blunt yet effective suggestion hits Renako where it hurts. Satsuki continues to say the top 10 doesn't have to be the absolute goal. If she were to just try hard and improve, it would surely bring some level of happiness to her. That particular statement strikes a chord with the gamer, who's quite used to competitive games. Renako adds on herself that getting better grades could even make her mom happier in the end, and so the two set out to study. As they're studying, Renako makes the most of the tutoring, making sure to ask for clarification from Sensei Satsuki, who seems to have a knack for teaching. Renako compares her teaching skill to that of a loving wife to a no-good husband, an appropriate analogy from someone so dirty-minded. Satsuki clarifies she won't be mean for the sake of it, she'll simply do what gets the job done the best. In that regard, she does question if Renako is the type who needs a good scolding to improve, but Renako quickly shuts that down. Renako then asks Satsuki if she is a tsundere when helping out her partner. She doesn't really know how to answer the question though, given she's never been in a relationship before. The question has Satsuki feeling awkward, immediately making Renako feel sorry. She says it was intended as a hypothetical, thinking about how happy someone might be to be in a relationship with Satsuki, but that itself sounds strange to her, since after all, the two of them are in a relationship right now. Trying to break away from the nervousness she gave herself, Renako starts mentioning how different Mai would be in teaching. Of course, this comparison triggers the darkness in Satsuki, not want to be compared to her at all. For a moment, Renako visibly shrinks due to fear, reverting to a chibi body. Thankfully, Satsuki continues as normal, and her slender fingers reawaken Renako's lost mind. But to save herself from falling too deep into lewdness, she channels the image of a mental Mai to mixed success. Not aware of the battle going on in Renako's mind, Satsuki suddenly mentions how she used to not be able to solve the problem they're doing before. Apparently, Satsuki was quite dim-witted back then. She didn't know how to improve at studying and was constantly bored with the practice. But that itself is impressive, as it shows how she didn't give up. The reason, of course, was that she was utterly annoyed by Mai and wanted to defeat her. She knew Mai worked hard for everything she had. She knew Mai was a normal person just like her, and so she challenged her. Hearing this story, Renako feels relieved to know that Mai and Satsuki's relationship is indeed strong. Inspired, she even asks if she could reach the top 2 by studying. Satsuki agrees for a second, causing Renako to be powered up even more. But she quickly retracts her statement. In reality, Renako would have to drop everything she has in life and work till she bleeds to reach such a goal. Yeah, that's not happening. Later on, as Renako is lounging around at home, her little sister comes asking about when Ajisai and Mai will visit again. Renako tiredly dismisses her, saying they won't be visiting that much. This gets her little sister worried. Is it possible that Mai was just messing around with the gloomy Renako? In hindsight, little sister Renako finds it hard to believe someone like Mai would actually fall in love with her sister. More likely, the whole thing was a dream, but Renako's pride won't have it. Besides admitting to future marriage, of course. Thankfully, the siblings can banter like this about love cause the parents are away, but wanting to be safe, Renako clarifies with her sister that no mention of this shall reach their parents. Also, no mention of her gloominess can reach her classmates. At first, the little sister shows great honor in denying any envy. However, with gamer blood in her veins, she starts setting up a proper blackmail job on Renako. She resists at first, but Renako eventually gives in to avoid any word of her gloominess spreading. everything. Now out of the house to procure some blackmail donuts, Reneko's little sister is happily proclaiming her sisterly love. The shop amazes the little sister, especially the cashier, but Reneko stands proud, knowing she's expertly used to all sorts of beauties. Speaking of, the little sister asks if Reneko actually just rented Ajisai and Mai, but Reneko's poor, and this is a much better manga than that. Reneko was then thinking about her order when the cashier suddenly exclaimed, forcing her to look up.
Satsuki-san?
Looks like the cashier was a beauty after all.
Did that leave you hanging? Check out our other works here, and don't forget to leave a like and subscribe.